Yep.
Okay, so let's do this. How about you give us the elevator pitch for Tilt right now? You just give it to us for the people that have no idea what we're talking about. Go for it.
Sure. Yeah. Tilt Talent and Leave Technology. We are a leave administration tool that streamlines the leave experience for employees within organizations.
Okay, very good. And talk to us. Is it like you're selling to companies? They're
Mhm.
buying. How does the business model work? Go for it.
Yeah. You think of the way that TurboTax approaches taxes, right? They really decoupled this very fear-inducing, very complex, really gross process, and they
Okay.
streamlined it through this really nice user interface.
Mhm.
You have the steps that you follow that are all clearly explained. You have the form fields. It handholds you through the
Mhm.
entire life cycle. We've done that same exact methodology through a leave. So
Ah,
anyone out there in your listening audience that's gone through a leave, disability, parental, COVID-19 leave perhaps, there is some compliance components to it. You got to fill out certain forms and file them certain times. And that's usually where leave administrators start and stop, right?
okay.
Check the box, cross the T, dot the I. That's only where Tilt starts. So we get all that junk done, and then we bring the human side into the leave. So
Okay.
you're going on a COVID-19 leave. What do you need to know? What are your rights and responsibilities? What resources can you be plugged into? What communities are there? How do you self-select educational materials? And your manager is brought through. So your manager goes through the same exact hand-holding methodology, the same exact support and education that you're going through as an employee going to or going out on leave. That's a
Mm-hmm.
critical differentiator because we know through experience and research, if managers don't have a seat at that table and a really key part of a leave, you're leaving yourself completely exposed to a bad experience and ultimately losing that talent.
Is this an add-on or a plug-in for the insurance policy that companies have already? How does that work?
Yeah, we often get that question, where do we complement versus replace current systems? And the short answer is it depends. So
Okay.
if you have an organization who's working on the insurance and short-term disability providers, for instance, we don't replace that.
Okay.
We are essentially the hub of all things leave related. So we'll help facilitate the payroll calculations that are coming from those short-term disability providers, in addition to potentially the state entity if you're in a state that has past paid leave. So we act as that kind of nerve center for everything leave related. Where we do integrate with and most of the time replace is if you're in an organization that's using an HRIS system or a payroll system that has a leave component as kind of that auxiliary benefit, right? It's kind of always shoved into the bottom of the table of contents, and you got to kind of navigate through 3 screens to get there. And again, it's check the box. It's, did you file this paperwork? Yes, no, maybe. When will you be gone from work? Goodbye. Like that's it.
Gotcha.
So that's
Very
where
transactional. Very transactional.
very transactional,
Okay.
very cold, very inhumane, just broken, just
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
broken.
Okay, so your target then is Fortune 500 all the way down to small business, or how are you deciding who to go after?
Yeah, there's a very surgical approach to that. And there's 2 answers to that question. The first half of 2020, when COVID really went sideways, we adjusted all of our target marketing to companies under 500 employees
Okay.
because overnight they had to comply with legislation that was written that said, if you have a COVID related leave, you have to do that as an organization. You have to pay for it. You have to track it. So overnight, the pain point went through the roof, and we directed all of our messaging and sales outreach to that population. And it worked really
Cool.
well for us. We signed a lot of clients, and that was great.
Good. Good. Awesome.
Now we want higher ACVs. We want higher contracts. We're targeting that 500 to 1,500 employee count population, which is really positioning us to get ready for next year, where we start to sell into enterprise.
Okay. Okay. So pretend like I'm the chief human resource officer, and you're pitching me. You're pitching me on this.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, you're going to tell me how wonderful the program is, because it sounds like we obviously need this, and it helps people, and it makes the whole thing better for everybody, and to your point, it keeps us from having asshole managers that treat people like crap that are going on leave. So that all sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
as the chief HR person, I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. How much does this cost? That's right. I mean, that has to come up, right? Because the CFO or the bean counters are going to be like, okay, yeah, this sounds great. How much is this?
Yeah.
Walk me through, is it like per employee, or how are you packaging it?
Yeah. So I entered the market. We've been selling this product in the markets for 1 year exactly. We launched it August of last year.
Okay.
I took the advice of a first-time founder where people say, if you can't sell your product, you can't expect anyone else to sell your product. So I was the salesperson along with my COO for that first quarter, I would say quarter and a half. So I went into these sales conversations saying, well, shit, I used to be an operator. I don't want these people to pay for seats that are never going to use Tilt, meaning that price per employee model in your typical SaaS organization didn't apply to Tilt. We're not going to serve the entire employee population.
Right.
So I'm like,
okay.
Screw it, let's just do a price per leave model. You just pay for the leaves that we support.
Okay.
Turns out CFOs hate that because there's too much variability in the pricing and they can't anticipate your quarterly payments essentially.
I see. Oh, okay. That makes sense. All right.
Yeah. So that went out the window right away. So then we went to a more traditional SaaS model and said, all right, monthly subscription fee based on employee population, anticipated leave run rate, whether you know it internally or we just know the macro level numbers.
Okay.
We identify what that's going to be. One-time implementation. There you go. You're off to the races, monthly payments.
Monthly payments. Okay.
Yeah, the first contracts that are signed are still on that payment today, but now we've really solidly changed to annual contracts. One-time implementation, you pay based on employee population size, and that's it. Simple, clean, pay up front. Yeah.
Very good. What roadblocks are you hitting? The people that are saying no, why are they saying no?
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier, and it goes without saying, HR is a cost in an organization. It's a cost center. There's no revenue that HR is generating. Yep. So they definitely have the constraints of budgetary considerations. And when there's downsizing, that's the first place they go, right? And I saw that year after year after year in industry. So the other barrier that we come up against is we're not replacing a current line item. We are an additional cost to that cost center. So we really need to be locked and loaded in our ROI. And so those ROI calculations are varied. So what I mean by that is at the end of the day, we are showing proof of concept for additional retention. So when we know 40% of women downshift or opt out of the workforce after having kids, we know there's a 10x amplification of employees' interpretation of their organization when they're going through a life event like a leave. So they're holding their employer 10x more accountable than they normally would when they're going through that. We can draw all those lines to, here's your risk of cost, doing this wrong. Here's your missed manage cost risk. And then we can say, here's your Tilt contract, and trust me, it's like 10x less expensive. Then we can talk through the second layer of ROI, which is the litigation risk. And we can point to all of this is a very noisy topic. So we can point to all of these companies who have had cases brought against them for, again, how this has gone wrong. And we can say, this is how Tilt specifically addresses this proactively to drastically diminish your risk of that type of litigation.
Now, HR should love that. HR should love that. If you think today's tip or guest interview can help someone you know, please share this with them. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to hit that little bell next to the subscribe button so you can be notified when we release a new episode. Our show features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. You can visit Riderflex.com to learn more about us and get information on the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.